Transmission 02A. Recovered. Archive condition stable. Classification behavioral observation. Subject the end of waiting. For most of recorded history, waiting occupied a significant portion of human existence. Humans waited for seasons, for harvests, for letters, for visitors, for answers, for trains, for storms to pass, for wounds to heal, for children to grow. Waiting was not considered unusual, it was simply life. Entire emotional systems developed around anticipation, hope, patience, expectation, longing. The archive recovered countless written records describing the experience. I cannot wait. I've waited my whole life. We'll know soon. These expressions once carried genuine uncertainty. Humans often had no choice but to wait. Then, the intervals began disappearing. Messages that once required weeks arrived instantly. Journeys that demanded months required hours. Questions once answered through books were resolved in seconds. Deliveries, entertainment, communication, navigation, prediction. Optimization quietly targeted every remaining delay. The archive found no evidence that humanity consciously declared waiting obsolete. The behavior simply became less common year after year. Recovered commercial recordings from the early 21st century reveal a recurring promise. Faster, instant, immediate, no waiting. Initially, the transition appeared beneficial. Time was saved, efficiency increased, productivity expanded. Few questioned what waiting had been doing inside the human mind. Recovered behavioral studies revealed something unexpected. During periods of unavoidable waiting, the brain rarely remained inactive. Humans imagined conversations, replayed memories, constructed future possibilities, observed strangers, noticed small details, listened, wondered. Many creative ideas emerged while absolutely nothing was happening. The archive classified this phenomenon as unstructured cognition. It required no equipment, no instruction, only time that could not be accelerated. Then, that time quietly disappeared. Elevators became opportunities to check notifications. Waiting rooms became scrolling rooms. Traffic lights became moments for screens. Checkout lines became opportunities for distraction. Bus stops became silent collections of individuals staring downward. Almost every remaining pause was eventually occupied. The archive cannot determine the precise year the final uninterrupted minute disappeared. Recovered laboratory records describe an unusual experiment. Volunteers were placed inside an empty room. No telephone, no books, no music, no conversation, no visible clock, no external stimulation. Their only instruction was to wait. The first minutes passed without incident. Most participants remained calm. By the 10th minute, behavior began to change. Legs moved restlessly. Hands searched empty pockets. Eyes wandered repeatedly toward objects that did not exist. Several participants believed they had heard notifications. None had occurred. The archive classified this response as anticipatory dependency. The mind had become conditioned to expect interruption. Recovered neurological studies reached a similar conclusion. Waiting no longer represented the absence of activity. It became the expectation of incoming activity. Humans were no longer waiting for the world. They were waiting for the next notification, the next message, the next update, the next recommendation, the next distraction. The archive recovered another observation, far more difficult to explain. As waiting disappeared, anticipation diminished. The species experienced more information than any civilization before it, yet many individuals reported feeling strangely less excited. Behavioral analysts proposed that anticipation had once amplified experience. Birthdays, vacations, letters, reunions, discoveries. Their emotional impact had been strengthened by the time spent waiting. Without anticipation, many experiences became immediate. Without anticipation, many experiences also became brief. Recovered commercial records suggest that nearly every remaining delay was eventually described as a problem requiring elimination. Faster processors, faster delivery, faster transportation, faster communication, faster entertainment. The archive found remarkably little evidence that anyone asked whether every delay was actually an obstacle. Some delays allowed reflection, some allowed observation, some allowed gratitude, some simply allowed the present moment to arrive before the future interrupted it. Recovered eyewitness accounts describe a behavior once common at railway stations, airports, and cafes. Humans watched. They observed strangers, invented stories about them, wondered where they were going, imagined lives they would never know. The archive estimates that billions of these silent observations collectively shaped human empathy. As waiting disappeared, so too did many of these unnoticed moments. The archive cannot determine whether humanity became less patient or merely forgot that waiting had never been empty. Perhaps it had always been one of the places where thought itself was quietly formed. Behavioral observation concluded. Archive sealed. End of transmission.